conspiracy theory, and the paranormal meet. And now, we join the show already in progress with your hosts, Adam, Serfiel, and Rob.
Well,
all right, let's rock and roll.
Here we are, yet again, Conspirinormal. We, Serfiel here. No, it's a Robless week.
Yes, we are in Studio B, hunkered down.
Yeah,
ready.
Hunkered down in the bunker with the pipes rolling around. So, we have tonight someone that I had the privilege to meet back in April at the Paramania event. Someone that I feel like really doesn't have any needs an introduction, and that's Tim Binnall. Welcome to Conspirinormal, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the invite. It was great meeting you in Atlanta, and
yeah,
you know, I've heard really good things about the show, and I appreciate being invited on. So, should be fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose this is a kind of an interesting day that we're doing this, because we're recording this on the 14th of May. We actually we'll drop it the next Monday is when it's going to be dropped. But so by then everybody will know about the passing of Stanton Friedman, and I understand that you and Friedman knew each other fairly well.
Yeah. It's just been a day, man. It's just been a day I won't forget anytime soon. That's for sure. Yeah, Stan was the man. He when I got into this, I think like in 2000 and really got into it like in earnest in 2003, and after sort of puttering around, sort of doing my own research or whatever, I finally decided to go to a conference, X conference in D.C. In 2004, I believe. And I had just been writing stuff at the time, but then I was like, I'm going to start interviewing people, essentially. Well, I want to try. I want to see if I can interview people. That's probably the best way to put it, because that's kind of where Stan comes in a sense, because, you know, I think it was like a 3-day weekend. Finally, by the third day, I kind of mustered up the courage to try and interview some of these folks, and Stan was the first person I asked, right at his table, you know, where he always was at every conference, and you know, he was like more than happy to do an interview, and so he was the first guy I ever interviewed in this field, and you know, I often said to him, if not for him, if he had kind of blown me off, I might have never done all this, you know. I might have been like, you know, forget all that. These people are lame or whatever. But he was like so nice and so giving of his time and everything that you know, and for me, it was like I grew up watching him. I mean, I've heard from a lot of people today, you know, who kind of said the same thing. You know, it's like they grew up watching him, and so it was like, to me, it was just amazing, you know, to be able to talk to him. And then over the years, it's crazy. Like that first time I met him, I actually like ran the slides for his slide show for the presentation at the X conference, and it was like that to me was like, this is awesome, you know, this is like, you know, it was like it was like the wrestling equivalent of like setting up the ring or something, you know. It was like I was paying my dues, man, you know. I was like carrying Friedman's bags and running his slide projector, you know, metaphorically, and so yeah, I always sort of held him in the highest regard, and you know, then when we launched Binnall of America Audio, it was like, since he was so instrumental in me doing all this, we started having him on around the holidays, and that like just took on a life of its own. And I interviewed him like every December for the holiday special. This past December was the 14th year we did it, which is pretty crazy. And like I always said to him, you know, I'm really proud that like we have this monstrous archive of interviews with Stan Friedman, like 14, you know, and there's like some of these, like most of these, like 2-hour shows. So there's probably like 25 hours of material there, of conversations with him. And over the years, you know, it was just crazy. It was like he was a hero of mine, and then over the years we became friends. And it was like it was just awesome, you know. And so, you know, it wasn't like, sometimes I know a lot of people in this field, and, you know, I've met a lot of people in the field, and I'm friends with a lot of people in the field. But, you know, he was like, he was someone who, you know, I genuinely love the guy, man. I really did. So I'm going to miss him a lot.
He was such an instrumental person in all of this stuff. I mean, if you look at, you know, as you know, I mean, he pretty much, the whole Roswell thing really kind of comes from Stan.
Yeah.
In a way. I mean, he
Yeah,
kind of
for
started
sure.
that whole research going and kind of revealed that to the world. I mean, no matter what you kind of think about what that would or could have been, I think that he definitely revealed that something happened, and kind of just really that dedication to research and uncovering that was just amazing. And you know, he has really been a presence. I mean, you're right. I mean, every UFO themed television show had at least one cameo by Stanton Friedman. I mean, you would see the guy in just about every episode. And I never actually got to meet him. I think I saw him from a distance when I was in Roswell back in a couple of years ago. But you know, I get it. You know, I definitely get, you know, how you feel. I think for me, the equivalent for me was Stan has got to be Peter Robbins, though, because I've gotten to hang out with Peter. I've stayed at his house. I've done extensive interviews with Peter, and it's like, you know, I could understand if you lose somebody like that, how that would feel. You know.
Yeah. Like I said, it's been a surreal day. I really can't even, you know, and it's like weird. I'm like you said, people are going to be listening to this next Monday, and I don't think they'll really understand the surreality, if that's whatever, you know, the surreal nature of just this conversation we're having now. It's like, I did not wake up this morning thinking that Stan Friedman was going to die. Right. So it's like, wow, I haven't even had a night to think about it. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow, this is really wild, man. And, you know, it's just really interesting for me, you know, because I do work for Coast to Coast, and, you know, it's my responsibility. I've kind of taken it, you know, pretty seriously, responsibility, since I started doing the extensive writing for them, is that, you know, I write obituaries for, people that pass away. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, again, it was this really, like I said, really kind of surreal feeling where it's like, okay, you know, I can't even stop right now to like process this. Yeah. You know, it was like, we have to, you know, it's my responsibility to fucking tell the world, right. You know, I mean, obviously lots of people were talking about it online, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, the job of writing his obituary falls on me, as far as with Coast to Coast goes. So to me, it was like, this is, you know, and you know, and here I was 15 years ago running the dude's slide projector. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what a journey, man. What a journey. Yeah. So he's going to be really missed, man. It's sad. It really is. It's kind of like the last sort of like vestiges of the old school ufology world. I mean, I'm sure there's a few other seasoned guys still around, you know, like a Bruce Maccabee or something like that. But, you know, Stan was the face of, you know, of ufology.
He's really high profile and a really good introduction to people just getting into it, you know. And the scientific background and everything, you know, it's going to be hard to find a replacement for that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what gave him such cachet, that he was a nuclear physicist. You know, he wasn't a UFO buff per se. He started out as a nuclear physicist, and it was like that carried something. You know, and so like you said, it's going to be hard to find someone with those kind of credentials who's on board, you know, with the UFO thing. Although who knows? Times are changing. You know, things seem to be getting better. You know, it's too bad he passed away now. With people seem to think things are going to happen. I don't know if they will or not, but I can say this, that when I interviewed him, not this past December, but December of 2017, I guess, when the New York Times article came out and they revealed the whole thing about the government project, I mean, he was like on cloud nine, and I was just so happy for him, you know. And I didn't, because I was wrapping up the show a few months later, and I had kind of planned to do the holiday shows again, but I wasn't, you know, you never know. And it was just like, well, this is like the last time we talk. It wasn't. We had one more interview, but, you know, I was thinking what a way to go out with these shows, you know, like with Stan Friedman like on top of the world, man, that the government, you know, at least partially revealed some kind of information after all these years where it was like, oh, no, the government, they couldn't cover up this. It's like, oh, it turns out actually they've been looking at it for a while, you know. So he was thrilled.
Yeah, you got to see some kind of justification for all the work that he'd put in for 40, 50 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Into what he had done. Yeah. I could see how that would be good for him. What he was how old?
84.
84. Okay.
Yeah.
What did they say how he passed away, or what's
I don't know really the specifics of it.
Yeah.
You know, I know he was on his way back from an appearance in Ohio. So I assume, you know, something happened along the way, health-wise, you know.
Yeah.
It was a very, like I said, a very sort of odd experience in a sense, you know, because I've seen this before with a few other people. It's like, because of what I do, I'm sort of always online. And like early in the morning, there were rumors. This happened, I remember this with Jim Mars, too. It was like, first there were like rumors circulating on UFO Twitter and UFO Facebook, and it was like, all right. And I actually called his house, called his number, but I didn't get any answer, and boy, was I hoping he would pick up the phone. And then I called some other folks who would know, and that's when they told me that, yeah, he'd passed away. So it was like, wow, this is... Because the weird part was, first somebody posted something on Reddit about it, and then like an hour later, someone was like, no, this is BS. You know, this isn't true, blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, then I was like, oh, okay. And that's like when I called him, I'm like, all right, I better make sure, you know, let's get to the bottom of this. And then that's when I found out what really was going on. It was like, wow, this is wild. You're really in the moment kind of thing.
Yeah, so. That's strange how it works now. Instead of everyone finding out from an official source, it's this kind of process.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. Yeah. And then I was just kind of like, all right, well, I'm pretty sure I know this to be the case, but, you know, let's wait a little bit longer and make sure that, you know, that what I'm hearing is true, you know.
I did get to meet Jim back in 2008. He was never had him on Conspirinormal, but and the same with Friedman. I never had him on as well, but I got to meet Mars at least, and that was a good experience. That was back in 2008, like was it Unknown Country or Dreamland Festival that they had here in Nashville. And
oh yeah,
so yeah, he was like pretty much the reason I went to that. Really, was Jim Mars.
Yeah, that was like one of the big
Really
when
nice
I
guy.
went and met Stan that time, the chance to that X conference was like the Woodstock of like UFOs. That first couple of X conferences, and I think it was like Stan was there, Jim was there, Linda Moulton Howe was there. Like every person you could think of was at this event. So yeah, that's kind of what got me to get out of the house and go check it out, because it was like, I got a chance to meet all these people. This is crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like that kind of got you started on things.
Yeah, that's kind of what got me. Yeah, that's kind of what led to the transition from sort of just snarky writing online to, you know, becoming a broadcaster, let's say, you know, podcaster. It wasn't even called podcasting when I started. It was just like audio files. So yeah, that's kind of what got me into it, because I was thinking to myself at the time, I was like, I really want to ask these people like a million questions and find out how they got into this and all that stuff. So that's kind of what led me to doing interviews and things. And back then, like I said, there wasn't any such thing as a podcast. So next thing you know, after a few years, there was like all these other podcasts. Now there's like a million of them. So
yeah, I know. Tell me, well, shit, when I started in 2012, there really wasn't that many at that time. I mean, the word was around, but it wasn't as inundated as it is now.
Yeah, now it's like crazy. I mean, I don't begrudge it. It's cool.
Yeah.
I have no, it's interesting. It's like now there's whole shows just devoted to just individual sort of fields. Like I heard there's like a whole. I haven't looked into it recently, but last I heard there was like a whole just a JFK podcast. And of course there's like a million just like Bigfoot podcasts or just ghost podcasts, or just UFO podcasts. So it's like it's just crazy. It's really crazy.
Everyone's kind of in their own little subcultures with it, which is because the basis of Conspirinormal, I guess, is kind of crossing a few different topics. So we have a lot of friends on the different sides, but while I think the listenership really travels a lot, you're right, they're getting like segmented off. Do you think that's like a trend that's going to continue, or where do you think this podcasting thing in the paranormal and UFO world's going?
This podcasting game.
I don't know, dude. It's it's hard to keep track of everything, so I'd feel like I don't have a very informed opinion. It just seems like everybody has a show nowadays, so
right.
I don't really, they all cover different stuff, and yeah, I think it sort of kind of does break down into little like fiefdoms of fandoms. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you guys have a Patreon, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. It's like everybody, again, I'm not like, go for it. I don't care, So it's just, to me, it's like funny. Like everybody has a Patreon.
Yeah.
And everybody's like fighting for like subscribers and stuff. It's kind of, interesting in that sense.
Yeah, everybody used to have a band. Now they all got podcasts. That's the thing.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like, well, first everybody had a blog, and then they
then
they have podcasts. And to I guess in a sense, if you're asking, I guess, I think, I mean, I would predict like that there'd be more of a move toward like video, but I mean, I haven't seen anything that great yet, like on the video end. Well, I mean, Hellier obviously is awesome, but I'm thinking more like video blog. Like I don't really, I think that goes for like all podcasts. It's like trying to turn it into a video thing is like hasn't quite taken yet for any of these podcasts.
It's not very
really
entertaining, If you can sit and listen to, I've been listening to radio shows my whole life, so it's like, you could listen to it while you occupy, I guess, your eyes with other stuff. But just watching someone sitting there talking, it's kind of, I don't know. It's not very
exactly. Yeah, you'd rather have the audio file. Yeah, because you can drive and shit, or jog, or whatever, work out, or whatever, and listen to a podcast rather than having to sit and stationary and watch a video. Yeah.
But of course, you've got people that listen to podcasts on YouTube,
right?
Right.
Has never really made too much sense for me. But I think it's just an ease of access thing.
Yeah, it's a channel,
is what it is.
Yeah, I'm sure that. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that, like, that you have a podcast. Like, well, if you have an iPhone, you have a podcast app on your phone.
Right.
They're like, what's that purple thing? I think somebody actually said that to me one time.
But yeah, I think it's weird. I mean, it got easier to have a podcast, and in turn that like kind of flooded the market. And I don't even mean like just paranormal stuff. It's just like everything has a podcast now, dude. That's the other part, where it was like before it was like this niche-y thing that was like, because paranormal's like on the periphery. And I mentioned this before, like I got my inspiration to do a show from a wrestling website I was a part of that like they would do essentially podcasts before it was called a podcast. And they were like, you download the MP3 and listen on your computer or your device or whatever. I don't know what was the, the music thing, the thing, or, an MP3 player.
Yeah.
And now it's like since everybody can make a podcast, it's not even. It's like anyone who's like doing one of these shows, like a paranormal show. It's like you're not competing with other paranormal shows. Like you're up against like the New York Times and everything, dude. Like, every outlet has a podcast now.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, see, that's the thing about all of this is that whether or not it's getting kind of like corporatized now. I feel like in a certain amount of way there is, and it's frustrating for me as a podcaster because you will get people that have they've never done a podcast, but they're famous and they put one episode out and they got millions of downloads because it's a famous person. Whether you got myself, down here in the trenches, I've been doing this for 7 years, and it's like, I'm happy, I'm happy with the downloads that we get, but it's always like could always get more to get more of that recognition. So it's kind of like that inundation, and then the famous people starting their own podcasts is just, it's kind of like, are we just going to be listening to those shows because that already has the backing of like the New York Times or BuzzFeed or something like that, I
think it'll be like anything else, like music, where you have people who just listen to what's fed to them on the radio, and then you have all these subcultures of people, who want to dig deeper or want to do things that aren't mainstream,
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Because still, I mean, we do benefit, this field does benefit from not, from the fact that, the New York Times, they may have done, I don't even know if they ever did a podcast, like an episode on the story they broke or whatever, but it's like, they're not putting out a paranormal show. It's essentially the New York Times, so,
right.
It's not, we still have the corner, the market cornered on weird.
What I do like about the format, though, is like, we get like you said, the market cornered on weird, but also we can discuss this stuff and we can go into depth on it and we can do whatever we want because we're not constrained by some kind of larger entity that tells us you got to have this many minutes, or you got to do this, you got to do that.
Right.
I think that's a good thing about our type of format.
For sure. I always found it really annoying, like podcasts that like they want to be like a quote unquote real radio show, so they like insert ads or like just bumpers or whatever, like not even ads, not even it'd be one thing if they're getting paid for the shit, but it's like they just they take breaks and things, and it's like to me it seems counterintuitive. It's like you're working against the whole. You're undermining like one of the really good benefits of this medium, which is like you can just go and you don't have to stop. And it's like, for what? So people will think you sound like more like a real radio show. Like what's the point?
Yeah, we recently started doing the whole advertising thing, and the way that I've structured it in the past with the show itself is that we usually have the main body of the show, which is the interview, and then we will come back, maybe do like it'll sound like we come back. Well, we didn't take that much of a break, maybe 5 minutes, but then we'll come back and we'll do like another 10-15 minutes or something like that, and end the show, whatever discussion we want to do. And that's not really a radio format as much as just like that's just kind of the way that I like to structure it. But doing the ads, my whole thing was like, well, when I'm brainstorming on this, and I'm brainstorming on this and thinking to myself, do I really want to have that? Do I really want to just interrupt the flow of the conversation in the interview, or interrupt the flow of the conversation in the second part? No, I'll just put them in between in that little gap, and then that's where it's going to be, and that's where it's going to have to be, because I don't want to interrupt that conversational kind of flow. As a podcast listener, that annoys me.
Exactly. Yeah, I always found it frustrating because it's like I would be on shows and I would get it just derails all the momentum and everything. You have to kind of like start from scratch again, when you come back.
Yeah. Oh, so you've been on shows where they actually do it while they don't just edit it in?
Oh yeah. I've been on a couple of shows like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's
No.
interesting. I mean, it's a unique experience. I mean, but to me, it's like, why would you do that? Because
like
sometimes they weren't like
request
ads;
line.
they were like ads for other shows, and sort of like, things that weren't like ads. They were like I said, like bumpers for other shows and things like that.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, why? It's cool that you were helping other people and shit, but it's like you're messing up the whole flow of the conversation with people. But
Yeah.
I guess if let's say if someone's been doing that for 7 years or however long I've been doing it, like 12, 15 years or whatever, they'd probably think it was crazy the way we're doing this now. You know what I'm saying? They might be like, how can you do that? Don't you need brakes so that you can readjust the car, whatever. Who knows how they justify it, but you know what I'm saying? They would have some perfectly reasonable, in their mind, rational explanation for how the way they do it is better.
You
So,
got to realign your chi or something.
Yeah,
something
yeah.
Like that
You need like a
in the middle
mental
of the break.
reset so you can.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, to me, it's all the flow of the conversation, and it's people having a discussion. I mean, some of the best ones are where you can actually sit there and listen to it, and you really feel like you're almost like a part of the conversation, that you're like listening in. I
Right.
An interesting phenomenon that happened to me was there's this older movie from like the early '80s called My Dinner with Andre. Have you ever seen that or heard of it?
I've heard of it. I vaguely know of it. I know about the Freddie Blassie parody movie they made.
Yeah, so I mean, the format of it is just two guys at dinner talking. And back when that movie came out, a lot of people kind of made fun of it because, like, how exciting could that be? It's just two guys having a conversation over dinner. And I thought the same thing. And I'd already been listening to shows, like, I mean, some shows on podcasts that I would listen to when I watched that movie about 2008, 2009. And I really got into the movie. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? This is a podcast. This is all this is. This is
Yeah,
so
exactly.
for me, it's just it was nothing to watch that, and it was. So I guess my point is on that is just the movie's kind of ahead of its time, and then B, it's normal for people to just want to kind of, you feel like you're eavesdropping in on a conversation.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what's
It's
your
a cool format.
What's your thoughts on because you kind of mentioned this on Patreon?
What are my thoughts on Patreon?
Yeah.
I just don't know if I don't know if it's sustainable. Where it's just like, I feel like, and this goes back to, I hope people listening aren't like, this is shitty. These guys are like getting way too inside baseball on the podcasting business, but hopefully they can endure. I think, I don't know if it's sustainable, and it kind of goes back to like what we were talking about earlier about the New York Times, and everything, where it's like now everything's competing for a finite amount of subscriber dollars, essentially. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and it's only going to get worse because, you're going to have that Disney thing coming out next year, and I think there's like another thing coming out soon. ESPN just launched a thing, and essentially like a whole bunch of different entertainment entities are looking for like $5 to $10, at least $10, probably, I think, a month,
Right.
So like, if you're looking at like Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, Disney, and ESPN, that's like $50 a month right there,
Yeah, all this kind of a la carte kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. And then it's going to be, I think the little guy is going to be ever increasingly squeezed, So it's, to me, I mean, I get why it's popular, like in the paranormal field, because it's so difficult to make any money in this. So like I said, I don't, if people, go for it, like if that helps, it's sort of helped a lot in a sense where, I mean, I probably would have done something like that if it hadn't come along when I was sort of nearing the end of my run, you know, because I had tinkered with the idea of doing a subscription service, but like you would have to, a lot like launching the podcast for the first time. Like I had to figure out how to do that myself, you know, like I had to figure out how to record the conversations, turn them into MP3s, get them on iTunes, all this stuff that was like, it's just like push of a button now, you know? And that was the same way with this Patreon thing. It was like, if I wanted to launch a subscription end for Binnall of America, it would have been so complicated. I'm buddies with the guys from Paratopia, Jeff Ritzman, Jeremy Vaney, and they did do it. Yeah. And I watched them just having to deal with so much crap, technical crap, involved in setting up the infrastructure of a subscription service, that it was like, this is insane. I don't even have the patience or the time to even pursue this. You know, and then Patreon came along, and they do all the legwork for you, right? I mean, you don't have to really worry about like all the technical shit. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's good. It gives people a chance to monetize their work on a really cheesy level. I was saying this to some of my buddies, Adam Gorightly and Aaron Golias and Jack Brewer. We did a roundtable. We were talking, we were having the same conversation kind of about the state of podcasting, and it was like, from a nerdy level, like from a really it sounds pretentious, and I apologize ahead of time, but it's like, I worry as a seasoned member of this broadcasting community, let's say, I worry sort of about the proverbial state of the art, if you will, where it's like, are you, I don't mean you, I mean like you know, steady, you know, are you as a collective, as a group, are you, don't laugh at me, dude, like, are you sacrificing, you know, like a bigger audience or a stronger audience in favor of like the smaller audience who will pay, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, or it's like, are you holding back the good shit? You know, I guess that's my main concern. It's like, don't hold, you know, my advice to Patreon podcast is probably a bad idea, but it's like don't hold back the good stuff just so it's just for the people who subscribe, because it's like you're missing out on the opportunity to like get a lot more listeners with you know, with your stuff.
Yeah, everything that we do, everything we do for patrons is extra, is just kind of like a extra thing, and we never do where, you know, we keep the juiciest parts and try to incentivize people. I don't think. Right,
yeah. I don't necessarily think that people do that, but you know what I'm saying.
Some do. Like, some big ones definitely do. You know, something I listened to recently, I was like, oh wow, I was like, I know this person elaborates a lot more. I could just tell in the actual interview that how much it was chopped up, and then, you know, the rest was only available for patrons.
Okay, so that's why I said that, because that's like the impression I'm under. There's like two kind of schools of thought where it's like, for some people, the Patreon's like an extra, like a supplementary show. And that's cool. I mean, that's, you know, but in other ways, it's like, sometimes it's like, if you want to hear the rest of this interview, that's available for our Patreons. I guess that's kind of where I worry about it, in a sense, where it's like,
page. We're totally on the same page with you with that, the thinking about that.
Yeah, when we do it, it's usually something that is just an addendum.
Yeah.
It's not the main. I know when I read the books or I research the person that I'm interviewing what I want to ask, and if there's something extra that is, you know, maybe or some other kind of clarification or something that just doesn't fit in the main show.
Yeah.
And what do we do? Like 15-20 minutes? I think the longest one we've ever done is maybe an hour. And that was just like a fluke kind of thing where it just got started. I used to be doing just like special shows, and I had Greg Bishop do a few, but I don't, and then I was just like, no, I don't need to do this anymore. It just needs to be, it just needs to be just 20-30 minutes. And also, we don't do it as regularly as I think, you know, there's that maybe some people would like us to do it. and maybe that hurts us. I don't know, but I mean, we try to get Patreon stuff up there when we can. I know one podcaster. I know that Timothy Renner, Strange Familiars. He does it. He has one show on the feed, and then maybe another show on Patreon, and then another show on the feed, another show on Patreon. And I'm like, that's an interesting idea, but I would feel weird about it because I just want the most of my stuff to be free, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I never charge a dime for any of my stuff, so
yeah,
it worked out all right for me. So
right, exactly.
You know, but
yeah,
I'm not really one to like. I'm not really one to hustle for this so much. In as far as the podcasting game goes, you know, see a lot. That's kind of why it's good. I never got into the Patreons. I do see a lot of like, you know, a lot of that. Well, you have to hustle, you know, and that's how it is. I mean, if you want to get subscribers, you got to promote your brand and promote your subscription service, right? So, you know, but I was never much of a hustler in that sense. I mean, I put any work in, but I'm not really a big fan of like self promotion or anything, you know. I kind of more. I kind of like being an acquired taste or something that like you have to find and learn about. You know what I mean? Like someone hears about Binnall of America through word of mouth. I prefer that because you get more. You know, people seem to really appreciate it. You know.
Right. That's how we feel about our show too. And I know some people that have a Patreon that make more money than we do, and they don't put any extra material on there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to figure that. I mean, I try to figure that one out. People just must love them enough to. I mean, I love them, but to send them money on their Patreon and not expect anything in return. So
I'll be absolutely honest. I have no. And this is not. This is 100% true. I have no idea like who you're talking about. So I won't even really say much. But I mean, I've seen shows that like outside of the paranormal that people do that, so it's not unheard of. No, you know, like I knew there was like a big time Canadian wrestling show, not about Canadian wrestling, but a wrestling show from Canada. That their radio station went like off the air or something, so then they launched a Patreon and essentially like made enough money, you know, to continue having a career as radio guys doing wrestling. And I don't know if they put anything on there or not, but it was like immediately people just started subscribing. So, you know, if you have a fan base.
Yeah, one of the things that I wonder sometimes is because a lot of people talk about, well, the terrestrial radio model is kind of declining. But I still feel like if you're on the radio, especially like, you know, the one that you work for, Coast to Coast, you're going to obviously get much more recognition than you are from a podcast. So it's just like I hear that the podcasters are taking over and terrestrial radio is declining, but it still seems like we're still in the situation. If you've got a radio station behind you or you're on a radio station, then maybe you get the better guest because you're on terrestrial radio, maybe because they don't really understand the reach of podcasting and all this. It just all follows suit from there. So, you know, it just feels like it's this kind of like balance right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny in a sense. Like, I almost guarantee you, it probably was this way a few years ago or whatever, but like, there's got to be more. Despite how many radio stations there are in the country, like, there's got to be more podcasts than there are radio shows. Like, so if anything, it's like it makes the radio show more unique in a weird way. You know, it's like there's a million podcasts, but this is a radio show. You know what I'm saying? It's like that kind of distinction. You understand?
Right.
You know, it's almost like how, you know, it's like how there's like countless TV shows on all these streaming services now, and you know, some of them are really good and everything, and obviously tons of cable channels and everything too with TV shows and everything. But it's still, if you got a show on broadcast TV, that still like counts for something. big. You know what I mean? And people say the same thing about TV that they do about radio. I mean, it's not as far down the line, that kind of talk, but, you know, people were like, oh, radio's dead. They're saying the same thing about TV now, you know, but it's still, if you got a show, I mean, look at, dude, this coming Thursday night, well, now it'll be past when people are listening, but, like, that last Big Bang Theory is going to be on Thursday night, and they're probably going to have, like, tens of millions of people watching. So there's still power in broadcast. I think there's still, like,
right.
I don't know if it's like that people can access the TV and radio easier, which I don't.
Yeah.
I guess if you're like,
it's curated, you know. Everyone has to find all these podcasts. It's cumbersome for a lot of people, you know. You just turn on tube and it's there.
Right. That's a big part of it, because I think our buddy Josh Cutchin, I think he's a cable cutter, a cord cutter. And, no, actually, I think he had TV on when I was there, but he was mostly like a streamer. And I know a lot of other people that are cord cutters. And it's like, to me, I don't know. I can't imagine ever getting rid of, like, that ability with TV to like, just scan the dial like you do on the radio.
Right.
You know, to, like, look around with the... And I guess, again, like, as we're talking about people who do different styles of podcasts, it's like other people, it probably sounds insane, where it's like you don't know what you're going to get. You're just flipping through the channels. Like, to me, I don't know. I like flipping through the channels. Other people, they're probably like, no, I like to be able to pick and choose what I watch, when I watch it, and not be beholden to whatever they're offering at the time. To me, it's like I like surfing the wave.
Yeah, sometimes I like to turn my brain off. Just, you know, flip the channels. You know, and it's just...
hold on now.
It's just relaxing.
Sorry. For some weird reason, my Alexa was, like, started talking to me.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hold on. No, I don't know. She thought for some reason... Jesus Christ, do you hear this?
Yeah.
No.
Special guest appearance by Tim Binnall's Alexa.
She's off now. Yeah, sometimes a certain combination of words sets her off, and it's like you don't say her name, but like a certain syllabic combination. She just, for real. I don't even want to try and attempt it, because then she'll think I'm talking to her. But yeah,
the ghost in the machine.
You guys have one of these things?
No,
I don't.
Oh, they're great.
No.
Yeah, they're awesome. I highly recommend it. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, they're going to listen to you. It's like, dude, they're already listening to you. Like, you know, you might as well lean in and enjoy it for what it is. Like, you know, you can't get away with anything nowadays. What do you know?
It's just,
I like how people are like,
interaction. I don't like the interaction with that disembodied voice. I'm not into it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I mean, I'll be honest. It's like I've been kind of following my own evolution with it, in a sense, and it's really interesting. Where at first, like, for like the first year I had it, it was like I felt compelled to like shout at it, you know,
like a child or a dog.
Yeah. Where it was like where it was like dumb or something, and then like later, as I got more used to it, I realized that you can just talk to it like you're talking to someone in the room, and it's actually then you kind of cross this weird threshold where it's like you don't bother to look at what time it is or anything. It's like you're asking somebody else who's in the room. You know, you're like, hey, what time is it?
I was waiting for it to speak.
No, I'm purposely dancing around the name so I don't set it off. But sometimes, and it's creepy. I don't know which one of you said they were put off by this embodied voice, but it's creepy because I don't know why this happens, but sometimes she'll like improvise, and she'll like, you'll ask like I happened to me this morning, I think, but if you ask, like I asked like on a Friday, like at about 5:15 in the evening, I asked what time it was, and she told me what time it was. Then there was like a little bit of quiet, and then she's like, have a great weekend. And it's like, there was no, yeah, dude. And I tried to get her to do it again, and she wouldn't do it again. I kept asking what time it was, like over and over for like 10 minutes to see if I could get her to do it. She wouldn't do it. It's just like completely, you just have to get it right at the right moment. Like this morning, I think I asked what time it was, and she's like, it's, 8:35 a.m. Have a great day. I was like, whoa, where'd that come from, dude?
Well, we've been talking about AI and a lot of this weird technology shit. Where is there anything in that area that you've been researching lately, or any thoughts you have about what's coming?
With AI, nah, I haven't really thought much about it. I'm kind of like, I'm just skeptical about a lot of this stuff. Like if we're ever going to see, everything seems to move so slow. If we're ever really going to see.
I think there's way too much idealism in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, believe me, it's probably for the best that it is moving slow.
Yes.
Because it's like, I think it's going to take a long time for them to really sort of integrate all this into one society, if you will. Like I think there's talk like if they ever get the self-driving cars going, then it's like all the truckers are going to be out of business. It's going to really upend all of society. But I think like by the time, well, I'm 40 now, so like by the time they get like self-driving tractor trailer trucks, like I'm guessing I'm guessing that it'll be like 20 years. It's going to take forever for them to get this. And that may be like optimistic for me, pessimistic to people who are hoping to see it. But to me, it's like it just feels like they're going to take forever. They're barely working out the kinks in the self-driving car and everything, and it's like who's going to even, then they got to get it allowed. You know what I'm saying? So like this whole idea that like everybody's going to be tutoring around in a self-driving car, it's like
we were talking
I just can't even,
We're talking
that shit has to be regulated.
Yeah, we're talking about drone delivery and what are these things just gonna be flying every damn where? Like, golly, they're talking about doing advertising in the night sky, with like drones and stuff. So you'll enjoy Coca-Cola go by when you're trying to look at the Milky Way.
Right, exactly. So to me, I'm hoping that, that it'll take a while before it upends society. But I'm not a huge fan of all this in a sense. It's like the internet's great and everything, and well, it's a double-edged sword, but it's I think it's mostly good. I owe my career to it, so I can't really throw it under the bus. But at the same time, like, I think we're seeing now the bloom is off the rose with like all this mobile shit. Like people on their phones. It's like the novelty of this is over. And now people are really seeing the drawbacks to it, where it's like young people are all messed up, and older people like can't get off. Lots of people just can't get off the phone. You know what I mean?
It's bad.
It's depressing. When we were down at Paramania a few times, I would look over and it would just be like a row of zombies, of people looking at their phone. And it's like, dude, we traveled all the way to Atlanta. What the hell are we doing? We're all like tagging each other on Facebook, and we're all right next to each other. This is crazy.
Yeah. It's like the Silicon Valley people. They talk about how they don't want to send their kids. They send their kids to like special schools where they don't have them on the phone, and they care. Right. They don't want their children playing with their phone because they know like it's addictive and horrible, but yet everybody else's kids, well, they don't care.
Right. Yeah, some of them speak out, but now it's even like I think that's what I mean in a sense, where you're seeing the bloom is coming off the rose. You see these people like, like that dude. It's a different story in a sense, but like that dude last week who was one of the co-founders of Facebook, and now he's like, you got to break Facebook up. Like this is it's bad, and so now we're seeing like this weird backlash against some aspects of technology. So who knows?
Which I think is something that you're always going to have is this backlash. That's what we talk about a lot, on the show and personally, about the automation and just what's going to happen when people start losing jobs, and even if it's 20, 30 years in the future. When that starts happening, you don't have a workforce. I mean, you're just going to have people going around just breaking shit. And that's what's going to happen. It's just going to be like social chaos.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's going to be like the coal miners times like a million in a sense, where it's just like people's jobs will become antiquated. A whole bunch of jobs. I mean, shit, dude. Like, the stuff that I think we will see, like, in the relatively near future is just the stuff like you see when you go to the grocery store now, and it's got the self-checkout. Like, they'll start adding more self-checkouts and having less human checkouts to the point where eventually, after like 5 or 10 years, it'll be like it's all self-checkout except for one aisle as a person, who's there for people who just cannot manage the self-checkout.
Well, that's why like these ideas are becoming mainstream, like the whole universal basic income thing already. But it's like, just giving someone a check isn't necessarily going to be enough for everybody. People need some purpose. They need some self-esteem. They can't just be. Everyone can't just be sitting on their ass. Some people want to do something. Like, it seems like there's a Silicon Valley elite who are like pushing these dreams, but as far as reality and the actual, having to deal with society, I don't know.
Right, exactly, yeah. I mean, the universal basic income's a good idea, but like you said, it's like, unless people have people need a reason to live, Or it's going to be like some weird future where like people are getting a universal basic income and they don't leave the house and they're on,
right.
They're living a virtual life or something.
Yeah, entertainment is really the only solution. It's going to be, people just plugged in some kind of virtual reality. Who knows? It's pretty dystopic to me.
Yeah,
it sounds, disgusting to me.
It's like the Matrix. Like the Matrix.
Pretty much.
And they'll find some way to like commodify it, where it'll be like you can, in the alternate reality world, like you can still be a truck driver, and you can still deliver digital. That's your thing. If you in like the Second Life thing,
you can podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like something off of Black Mirror to me.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, But we'll see. Everything happens so incrementally that, next thing you know, you look up and it's like, whoa, what happened here, man? This is crazy.
Let's talk a little bit about conspiracy theories.
Sure.
I was curious, got to engage with you a little bit on this when we were down there in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
But, I think we were talking a little bit about the Boston bombing and such like that, and how I guess that you were disgusted by some of the conspiracy theories that were going on about that, and
yeah, just like the people that were like it was fake and shit.
You're pretty
that
close
really
to Boston, right?
Yeah. I wasn't like directly impacted, but like when they shut like the whole city down, it spread enough to like where. My town wasn't shut down, but it was like half of the stuff was closed because half the people live in areas where there was lockdown. You know what I mean? So
right.
To me, it was like you definitely kind of felt the impact of it, and especially too because we love the marathon here. It's like a weird sort of statewide holiday and everything. So when those dudes set off those bombs, it was like a personal affront. I guess the best way to put it. And I'm sure it's like that in a lot of these cities,
It seems like
where it's
that's
like if something like that happens, you take it personally, And so when people are like, "Oh, it's fake," it's like, dude, it wasn't fake.
It seems like that's a new development in conspiracy theory. People, with this whole, things didn't happen or entire event was a sham type of thing versus
everything's a false flag.
It seems like old school conspiracy theory was like more of just a whodunit, But now this whole things not even happening. It's pretty weird.
Well,
right.
The old school stuff was far more nuanced, I think, in the fact that you may have that mixture of false flag, and then but this event could have been that, but this event wasn't, but it could have been this. And now it seems like the trend has been, well, everything's fake, anything that happened is a false flag, everything.
Yeah.
Everything is just taken to an nth degree.
Yeah, and the frustrating part, like, for me is, I guess, like, the people who are like, oh, this was fake, or whatever, that, like, these people are actors and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I live here. I think it's been 5 or 6 years, since the bomb went off. And it's like, okay, dude, like, you're telling me like that the conspiracy is so powerful and profound that they're still running like personality packages on people like 6 years later, or having updates on story. You know what I'm saying? It's like the local news isn't in on it, dude. Sorry, but that's just not. There were tons of people who were affected by those bombs, not just like the 3 or 4 people that got killed. And it's like, okay, so what? They found this guy with no leg, and he's an actor, and he's still portraying the role 6 years later for the local news. Like,
yeah,
like,
right.
Come on, dude. Like,
Yeah.
let's use some common sense here.
Yeah, it
That's what
bends
irritates
credulity.
me.
Yeah.
But if you're living in Dallas or Orlando or L.A. or whatever, you don't see all that stuff. You see like 10 minutes on. You see a few days coverage on CNN. And you never hear about it again. So then it's like, oh, what was that all about? It's like, I'm still seeing it all the time, dude. It didn't go away. It wasn't some made up thing that no one saw happen.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few things about like the Boston bombing that I found strange, but
There
I
are
think,
a few things. Yeah.
but I
me.
think that it's not a false flag. My honest opinion about it is I think that maybe the FBI could have been setting them up with like a fake bomb, and that older brother got wise to it and switched it and actually did the deed.
Right. I wouldn't discount any, like, kind of like what you were saying before about the whodunit aspect. Like, I wouldn't discount, like, anything in that regard. I mean, there was some guy in Florida who was, like, really associated with one of the 2 dudes, and, like, during an FBI questioning, the guy got killed, and it was all really shady.
That was strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of these events have weird shit surrounding them that does need to be looked at. But as to the reality of actual events that take place, that's what's, and that's what's given fodder to all these people who are, totally anti-conspiracy theory and anti-free speech, and they've used that stuff, especially like the Sandy Hook and other stuff, to try to silence everybody.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, I mean, the big thing too is like. The big flashpoint for a lot of people, and me too, I guess, is like the Sandy Hook thing. It's like the people who say that it didn't happen or whatever, like, that's kind of when I got off the ship, in a sense. Like, I was already like, all right, I'm out on the Boston thing. And then, well, I guess the Sandy Hook thing, I think that might have happened before Boston. But either way, it all kind of culminated in like a 2 or 3 year period where it was like, okay. Yeah, it was like, because that was 2012, and then the bombing was 2013. So, yeah, it was about a 6-month period there. And those 2 together, it was like, because you didn't really hear all that stuff right away with Sandy Hook. It kind of like percolated a little bit, and then all of a sudden it was like, these are all actors. And it's like, dude, people died. Like, kids died.
Yeah.
like, come on, dude. It's almost like you like to think we're all kind of in on the joke or in on, you know what I mean? Where it's like, all right, dude, you've gone too far now. Yeah. Like you've gone way over the line here with about the kids really didn't die. Well, like let's dial it back, dude.
Around about this probably would have been 2014, maybe 2014. I had Jim Fetzer on. I think I may have told you about this before when we were there at Paramania, but I had Fetzer on, and probably like one of the most disappointing interviews I have ever done. I will be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because here Fetzer, I respected the guy because of some of the stuff that he was looking into about 9/11, and I get him on about Sandy Hook, and we also talked about the Boston bombing stuff. And one of the things that he proceeded to do was he spent like 20 minutes defending himself against charges of anti-Semitism, and then somehow fell into Holocaust denial to prove that he wasn't an anti-Semite, which I don't exactly know how that works.
Yeah, that's weird.
And then the second, it was really roundabout. But then the second thing that he talked about when we talked about the Boston bombing was he's like, and there's a picture of Steven Spielberg directing everything that was going on at the Boston bombing, right? So I'm on the, I think after we were done, my co-host and I at the time, we Googled Steven Spielberg Boston bombing. We found the picture, and the picture is like clearly photoshopped. You could just tell, without even looking.
Right.
That well.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just disappointing. And I had another guy come on 2 shows later talking about how the Holocaust happened, and just doing damage control over that statement. Because
I mean, conspiracy theories used to be fun. Now it's like it got really dark, man. Like really dark.
Yeah.
And people are, people are being manipulated by them, because it has such political utility. This whole Q thing is so crazy, and whatever the hell's going on there.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about this a lot, and we should probably pivot and not get too deep into this, because people get fucking irritated when you get into this. But it's like we're living in like a fractured world where it's like there's two. It's like two competing conspiracy theories, essentially, where it's like the conspiracy theory that, Donald Trump worked with the Russians to get elected, and the conspiracy theory that it's all a big setup, And so it's like we're living in a world where it's like it's essentially just competing genuine conspiracy theories. Yeah. And it's like I got into this like in 2003, and it was like, dude, like the whole 9/11 thing was like verboten. It still is. Yeah. Like they won't even mention the possibility that it was anything but the mainstream version of events. But now we're living in this world where it's like there's either this giant geopolitical conspiracy or there's, a deep state conspiracy. Yeah. But there's no version of reality that doesn't involve some conspiracy taking place.
I guess that would be what, Ken Thomas is referring to as the triumph of the conspiracy spectacle.
Yeah.
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 And we talked about, too, how it's ironic that the biggest demonization of conspiracy theories is coming from the left, but then the entire focus of the left right now is a conspiracy theory, which is the Donald Trump stuff. So it's like...
Right. Right. And conversely, the other side is the same people who were like all worried about Jade Helm and all that stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about like the Q folks and everything. Now they're just like, yes, declare martial law, please,
exactly.
Declare martial law and round these people up. It's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what are you doing? Like that's you're supposed to be against that shit. Like you were against that shit like 2 or 3 years ago, and now you want them to round people up? Like, oh, this is terrifying.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So
it's absolutely amazing. I mean, you have back in 2012, 2013, Obama's president, and you've got Alex Jones. I don't. It could have been then, but you got Alex Jones going and going somewhere in Georgia where there's these bunch of coffins that are supposedly for FEMA, and he's like, "What is going on here? And what is happening?" And then now it's like, tumbleweeds. Now it's like, well, they better put the illegal aliens in the FEMA camps, and I mean it's insane. And I honestly, and I've said this before with like Red Pill Junkie, and we did a show with him and it was Ren and Go Rightly. We did a show about that, about all this stuff that's going wrong with conspiracy culture. And I honestly think that what it is just like it has a racist element to it, because they don't care if it happens to like Hispanic people or black people, but if it starts happening to white people, then they notice.
Right.
And,
that
stuff like that has been
it,
happening to those other races for forever.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But it's hard being from this kind of conspiracy culture and being into it for a long time, and now it's like you feel kind of like I almost like kind of hide it from a lot of people, you know, like, well, it's good not to really wear it on your sleeve too much anyway, but you know, now
Yeah,
you always feel like,
I know what you mean. It feels a little dirty in a sense.
yeah, I got to
It's
tell people,
like,
no, man, I'm more like
yeah.
Robert Anton Wilson conspiracy theorist, man, you know, like. So.
Right, especially now. Like, if you talk to somebody who's only vaguely, who's more like in tune with mainstream media and everything, if you're like, yeah, I'm into conspiracy theories, like their first thing they're gonna think is like a QAnon guy.
Oh yeah.
You know, because that's the preeminent conspiracy theory right now.
I've
And
had
it's like,
people
no, dude, that's a cult. I'm not, you know, I'm not part of some weird online cult.
I've had people say they won't come on the show because of the name.
What do you mean?
Because it has Conspira as part of the name.
Oh, like they don't want to be
associated.
associated with conspiracy theory or something?
Yeah, I mean it's happened. I've invited people on, and you know, like I don't want to, but I'm like I don't want to talk about conspiracy stuff. I want to talk about your book.
Yeah.
And I put in, and I even send, you know, like interviews that I've done where like, hey man, we agree on this essential point. You know, listen to these shows. You'll see I'm on the level here. Won't do it. You know.
Yeah. I can only think of one actually, but yeah, I've been turned down in a sense because we were a paranormal show where it was like,
yeah,
people didn't want to be associated with the paranormal and shit. Most of the time, since the name of the show isn't, my show isn't like paranormal at all, they can kind of like usually slip it past them.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're a paranormal show, but we also cover these things, and here are some of the other off the beaten path topics we've done. So you do the show.
Yeah, we pretty much front load both, so there's no getting around it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't even connect the conspirinormal. You know, I didn't actually get the normal part until now. To be honest, though, it just dawned on me that it's like a combination of paranormal and conspiracy and paranormal.
Yeah, because I always felt like I inhabited both worlds. Because I was really
it's weird.
I was really super into the ghost stuff a while back. That was really kind of my entry point into a lot of the paranormal stuff was ghosts.
Oh, really?
Ghost hunting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And UFOs too, I guess to a certain extent. And we've probably talked about UFOs more than I've probably really wanted to on the show. But you know, a lot of our earlier shows are primarily about like ghosts and violent hauntings and that type of stuff.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got into it first with UFOs and Bigfoot, kind of. Then got into a little bit of conspiracy, and then started looking into ghosts, and now I pretty much have, you know, I could talk about anything at this point because of the nature of my work and the nature of the show. It's like I've tried to be, well, just because of what I do, I have to always be surfing the net for news. So it's like I have to be well versed in like almost anything that's within the realm of the weird, you know. So it's like Amelia Earhart, Dyatlov Pass, any of this stuff, you know. It's like I need to know enough to you know what I'm talking about, pretty much, which is nice, you know. Yeah, so I'm not like someone who's, you know, some of these UFO folks, they take it way too seriously. You know, I think I said that to you when we were down in Atlanta at one point. I'm like, you guys were like talking about something like really passionately, and I'm like, boy, you guys really care a lot about this shit, huh? It's like, Jesus, you gotta start watching sports, man. You gotta start watching sports.
Yeah. At least you can bet and make some money.
I don't know. I feel like I just get sucked into arguments. I think that's what it is. I don't know how the UFO stuff became. Really, for me, what's more interesting than UFOs seeing shit in the sky is the abduction stuff. That's far more fascinating to me, and I think it's more of a separate kind of phenomenon. But
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, that's always been the more fascinating part. Like some of the stuff, like, well, we saw this in the sky, the Tic Tac video. I just want to like fall asleep. You know.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's been in this long enough has seen like a million videos. You know.
Right.
So I don't find anything. I don't really find videos to be too titillating, and to me, it's like anything. It has to happen now, or I don't care. I've reached that point. Like, in a sense, where it's like, oh, this happened, and even if it happened like 3 or 4 years ago, it's like, okay, so it happened 3 or 4 years ago. Like, what's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing's going to change. You know, we need like a Tic Tac thing to happen like tomorrow, and then like the dudes to say something right away. We need Phoenix Lights. You know, we need something like that to really, in my mind, like change the conversation. In a sense.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's an interesting time in UFOs, though. I'll give them that.
Well, yeah, it definitely is. I mean, there's a lot of debate going on. That's to put it mildly.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty ugly, man. It's pretty ugly. It's not.
It is.
It's not pleasant. Yeah, I've tried not to weigh in too much, at least in public, about it, and you know, to me, it's like. I can't really begrudge the TTSA group, you know, the actual TTSA group, because like for years and years and years on my show, I pretty much advocated for like exactly what it seems like they're trying to do, which was like, okay, look, if you're not going to tell us what UFOs are, then can we just at least acknowledge that like there's such a thing as UFOs, and we'll start from scratch. You know, let's just give it a second chance. That was kind of my argument for years on my show. You know, let's give it a second chance. So to me, like, I'm just sitting back and watching these TTSA, the organization, do what they do. But to me, I can't really get on my high horse and be like, object to what they're doing, because I pretty much advocated for this exact scenario that's kind of unfolding, where it's like, hey, let's give this another chance, you know? So, yeah. But to me, at the same time, I kind of pontificated about this on Twitter like a couple weeks ago, where it's like, to me, it seems like their driving force, their agenda is to get over that hump of like, that the government's going to say UFOs are real, you know? Like that seems to be the main driving force of UFO world at the moment is like getting the government to admit that UFO. I mean, they pretty much have admitted that UFOs are real. Just even in that Navy thing recently, where they're like unidentified flying objects are going into airspace. You know, and it's like, okay, so we know UFOs are real. To me, the more important thing is like what are they and who are they? You know, and everyone seems to be kind of dancing around that whole thing.
Yeah, it's all a problem of definition, and it's all. What do the people that are the real, like, kind of, as we call them, the TTSA fanboys, I mean, what do they really want? I mean, if, you know, the government admits, like you said, that UFOs are real, like, there's literally unidentified flying objects. We don't know what they are.
Right.
But so, you know, if that's already happened, and then you still have these people that still want them to admit, just still like are excited that they're going to admit it, or do they think that they're going to admit that it's actually aliens, or, you know, I think it's the way that people think about and the connections they make in their brain when they hear that 3-letter combination of UFO. You know, when I was, you know, a teenager into my 20s, when I heard UFO, I thought little green men from outer space. Now I'm like, yeah, it's just a damn UFO. It's just, you know, I don't know what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Neither does the government, apparently.
Yeah. That's the you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you've got this whole thing now too, where this weird switch has occurred, where all of a sudden it's just like the QAnon stuff that we were just talking about, where about the FEMA camps. It's like now all of a sudden the government are the good guys because they control the information, so we need to trust them. Whereas before,
right,
you know, 70 years or 50, 60 years ago, it was the government or the bad guys because they've got the information and we don't have it. So it's just like I don't know if where that switch comes from, or whether they just feel like they've got somebody like Tom DeLonge that can give them a trustworthy face to the. I guess I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, but I think there's a part of it that it's just like people are tired of waiting, and they'll take the answer from anywhere they can get it, and this seems like they're going to get an answer, so they'll take it from, you know, they're willing to overlook, you know, it. But I don't really know, like I said, I mean, I have mixed feelings. I don't have any problem really with the TTSA organization, despite what some people may think. I really don't. It's like, I thought they did a great job with this New York Times thing. They moved the ball down the field, and the exciting part is they're getting the ball back at the end of the month, and we're going to see what they can do with it. You talking
about the TV
and that's
show?
Exciting. If you're not excited about that, I mean, I don't get the people who are like cheering for this to fail. Like, that to me is like counterproductive. You know what I mean? It's like, let's see what. I don't even know what they really want, to be honest with you. I mean, my understanding vaguely is like that they want to figure out the technology of this, not necessarily even figure out who or what is behind the technology. And to me, personally, that doesn't interest me. I don't really care how the UFOs work, but they seem to think like, let's make a UFO, flying saucer. And I mean, that's, God, more power to them if they can figure out how to make a flying saucer, man. But I don't really care about how the flying saucer works or the technology behind it. That seems to be their main objective. And it seemed like that was their main objective when they were in the government, that the whole thing was like, okay, are these a threat to us? And if not, how can we do what they're doing?
Yeah.
Not who is in that thing, which to me is like way more interesting question, So, but I don't begrudge them. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Their fans, on the other hand, I'm not particularly fond of, but I try not to like. They're very pugnacious. I'll give them that.
I agree.
So I attempt to do my best not to engage them in debate, because I think we're just like looking at it from the different perspectives, and I mean, I'm willing to see it from their perspective, but I think that they can't quite fathom things from other people's perspective, if that makes any sense. And I mean that in the most gentle way. But it's like they really want – their attitude is like, this is the greatest thing that ever happened to this field, get on board. And if you express any, reservation about what's happening, you're like attacked, and branded like a heretic or branded a hater or all this other shit, where it's like, that's not, it's like, dude, I've been in this for years. Like, let's just sit back and see what happens. Why do I have to be a cheerleader for this?
There's a certain level of excitement that I think gets them carried away. Yeah. For me personally, I think I've said this before too on the show and other places, that just like, all this stuff, I'm like, it's cool, it's interesting, but I don't spend time at night. It doesn't keep me up.
Exactly. I was saying that to somebody, I don't know if it was down at Paramania or since I got back, so we're talking about this, but it's like, I just think that, like, anybody who's really into this needs to stop and be like, am I really into this UFO thing, or do I somehow, for some reason, need UFOs? You know what I mean?
Fills the void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, if UFOs were gone tomorrow, would you be okay, or would you be fucking like off your rocker because you don't have anything else in your life that matters as much as this UFO thing?
Right. It's just like,
to me, if this UFO thing is the be all and end all of your life, and like your day is like you're online, UFO Bandit 2235, and you just retweet all the news on UFOs and all the latest shit, and it's like, okay, dude, what do you, why do you need this so bad?
Yeah.
That's what it puts me off in a sense.
Yeah, this is kind of like when they make the announcement of, well, we know what they are now, and then all of a sudden you sit, one of the guys is sitting there like, oh, cool, awesome, this is great, and then a couple of days pass, and like, oh shit, what do I do with my life? That's the
Well, and it's fun because it is a mystery.
Go ahead, man. Let me just get this one last point out before I let you go. But and I think to me it's like, if you're if one of the prime motivations for finding out what UFOs are is so you can say you were right, like your priorities are all messed up. You know, it's like, can you imagine the government's like, look, UFOs are real, they're aliens from another planet, you know, yada yada yada, right? And the whole world is like, this is the most amazing thing that ever happened. And your whole attitude, you know, you said your whole attitude is, I told you so. I just want to be right. I just want to be right, and shove it in everyone's face. It's like, why? Like, are you that unhappy as a person that you need that validation or whatever? To me, it's like, I think people need to genuinely, the deeper you get into this, sort of check yourself to make sure you're not going too deep into this thing where you're sort of substituting UFOs for, you know, for genuine pleasure or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Genuine validate, like you need this for validation or something.
Yeah. And
does that make sense? Or was I rambling too much?
Yeah, and that can go for anything too. I think anybody else.
Oh yeah.
Especially the ghost hunting community is very much the same, right? I mean, some of them are very much just like, okay, I like ghost hunting. I enjoy doing it on the weekends. I really like the thrill of it. I research it. And they're like, I don't know what it is, and I don't really care. And then there's others that just like, I got to devote my entire life to this. I got to find out. I can prove this if I just do this one thing. I know people like that, and it's the same thing where it's just like, come on, it's not about trying to prove it. You're never going to be able to prove this stuff.
Well, look how long that's been going on. And like with UFOs, it's fun because it's a mystery. I don't think it's something that's going to be solved. That's the point, you know.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I think I mean, it would be great if it was just aliens are coming here, dude. It would be so much easier. But I think that it can't be that easy, because I think if it was, they already would have told us by now. So, to me, it's like, clearly there's some kind of catch to all this that they can't or won't tell us about. You know what I mean? So, and to me, personally, like, as I said, I think they're kind of repositioning this to be like, okay, let's take another look at this. Okay, dude, I'm 40. How long do you think it's going to take them to take another look at this? A generation? Like in a generation, they're going to be like, okay, we figured it out. It's aliens. You know? Or they're going to just twiddle their thumbs, and we're going to be sitting here and be like 60. And be like, oh, great, you finally caught up with where we were at the turn of the century. Thanks for nothing, dude. You know? Mm-hmm. So, and the world's so chaotic right now. That's the other part of it, where it's like anyone who really wants the government to like reveal the truth about aliens, which is what they really want. Let's be honest. They don't want like they want aliens.
Yep.
It's like, dude, no. Like, now is not the time for fucking aliens.
Well, that's the
like,
old
now
security,
Like, now is the worst time for aliens, dude.
That was
Late
the old
90s.
security concern, is that it will disrupt the political and religious social life of the entire planet, so let's not do it, you know? I mean, that was the old conspiracy theory.
Right. And the crazy part is, much like all this other stuff we're talking about, it's been turned on its head because the religious, political structure of the planet is in complete turmoil right now without aliens. So who knows? Maybe that would be the thing that would bring stability back to the planet. You know, that would be great if it could. But at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, dude, this is already a powder keg.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have they'll look back on it. I feel like we have like a legit holy war going on around the world, where crazy people are shooting up other religions' places of worship. And I mean, it's like, never mind all the geopolitical machinations that are going on. And it's like, you want to insert aliens into this mess? Like, absolutely. For real?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Sounds like it could really radically
backfire. I was kind of like, I mean, like I was saying it before. It's like, dude, like mid to late 90s, there was a window there. I think we could have pulled it off. You know, it seemed like the whole Cold War was over.
Yeah.
It was before 9/11. You know, the Gulf War made it look like war was a thing of the past, because they, went to war and it was over in like 3 weeks. And it was like, that would have been the time to be like, oh, hey, guess what? Turns out we found an alien or something. You know, I think they could have really pulled it off then. But since 9/11, things have just been chaos, and it's only gotten worse.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Are there
Try
any?
to make them.
Are there any conspiracy stuff that makes you think that or conspiracy subjects that interest you particularly, or you think that there's something to them?
Something to them?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to think about that. I mean, I really just like the flat Earth for fun.
Yeah.
Like, I think the flat Earth theory is just like the goofiest, coolest, weirdest thing, and it's like really fascinating to me, like that it's become so popular, And so I think that's really interesting in a sense. But the oxygen of conspiracy theories has been sucked out of the room by the QAnon and the Russian collusion conspiracies. Those are it's hard to really get, it's hard for really any conspiracy theory other than that to gain a foothold, except for sort of like the flat Earth thing, which is like this weird, funny, goofy conspiracy theory. I like those. I like the goofy ones, but they're kind of few and far between nowadays. But you see things like the parents buying their kids into college, and like that was a conspiracy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
it's like conspiracies are real, dude.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you think there's any organization to kind of these more ridiculous ones being almost, promoted and put out there by the mainstream media? Do you think there's any kind of conscious effort to use all this as just muddying all the waters and making us all look crazy?
I don't think so. Just because, like I said, I mean, it's pretty much like the fabric of reality now is split down between two conspiracy theories and people who are kind of like in the middle and just kind of watching to see which one turns out to be true,
Right.
And it's like we still don't really know. I don't know if we ever will know, It's very strange in a sense. But, yeah, conspiracy theory, it's lost its way in a sense. I mean, I think the QAnon thing is definitely like, I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out it's like a prank that went really wildly wrong and got out of control, and then it became something that like people used to manipulate people in a sense,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, I think that's exactly.
But the scary part with all that is like I said before, there are people who are like, declare martial law, and I mean, there are people like legit who were like, there was a guy like showed up with a gun at the pizza place, and there was a guy who showed up with a gun at like the Hoover Dam or something.
Yep.
So it's like, this is a dangerous conspiracy theory because it's inspiring people to become active in, to become violent, and it's like, okay, we don't, like when the 9/11 thing happened, people who subscribed to the conspiracy theory were, outraged, obviously, but I was there for the beginning of the whole thing, and it was like, you didn't see people like showing up places with guns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now it's like there's just a little too much talk. Just a little too much talk about armed rebellion for me. You know what I mean? Just like, okay, dude. It'd be one thing, like you were saying before, who done it? It's one thing to be like, okay, who really killed JFK? It's another thing to be like, we're going to storm the Capitol with guns to find out who killed JFK. It's like you're taking this way to, wait. I'm sure they'd say, no, we're not. You're sitting on your ass, and we want to get, But to me, it's like, okay, this is crazy talk.
The stuff that gets me is the stuff when religion gets mixed into it, and you have literally this demonization, and I mean literal demonization of political opponents. In other words, just like, saying like, I'm not a big fan of Hillary Clinton, but there's people out there that think that, she's a literal demon and she eats babies.
Right.
I mean, this kind of stuff is just, it's some of the worst kind of, it's witch hunt, satanic panic kind of just bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I was on another show a while ago, and I made this point, and it bears repeating in a sense, where to me it's like, okay, look, I'm not an expert on this shit, okay, by any means. But like anytime we've ever heard of these like predatory individuals, like a Bill Cosby or a Jimmy Savile, like they're lone wolves, dude. Like to me, the idea that like there's this like cabal of people who are working together to commit these like heinous acts, it just doesn't. It stretches credulity, as you said earlier. It stretches credulity. You know, it's like I just don't believe. And not only like, sure, you know, run of the mill, maybe run of the mill, but like we're talking about like some cabal of high ranking like people, sure, Bohemian Grove, and they go and they do their goofy shit, but like child sacrifices and like legit murder and shit. Mm-hmm. No, dude, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe that like there can be this like organized group. And I'm sure people will be like, oh, but what about this, that, and the other thing? But to me, it's like in this day and age, I don't buy it. You know, like I'm sure there's people who are bad people who do bad things, but I think they probably like, you know, in a profound fear of getting caught for doing these terrible things, they're not out broadcasting it or hanging out with people that'll help them. You know what I mean? It's like it goes to the whole idea of like doing that shit, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think that there are some real instances of that, but I think you have to take that stuff by case basis.
Well, you can't just throw it around to anyone you don't like. Just be like, well, I don't like you, so you're part of a...
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Because, I mean, to take it, you know, not to get too political, but it is in the conspiracy thing, like the QAnon thing. It's like, their shit's like right down the line. It's like the Democrats are a cabal of baby eaters.
Yeah.
And the Republicans are the saviors. It's like, dude, this, first of all, like, how coincidental that it worked right down the line between between these two political parties. You know? It's like, oh, all the people on that side are totally cool, and it just so happens that they're all... It's like, give me a break, dude. You know?
There's this guy out there called the Fireman Prophet. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Oh, yeah.
but he says that in 2011 he predicted that Trump would become president. Oh. I think that he started this in like 2016 when Trump was running for president. So how convenient for him. But
right.
He said that he's made all these statements about that if people don't like Trump, it's because the Illuminati has this like 44100 frequency that they broadcast to make people hate Trump, and it's just the weirdest shit. And people in like just like the really in the right wing Christian evangelical community, they just eat this shit up because they think they're just getting like the most amazing information from this from this quote unquote prophet, this guy that says he had a dream, you know. Like that's, you know, and they believe that over their own church, you know, even
their own eyes and ears. It's like, come on, dude. You know. Yeah, it's we're living in a really crazy time, man. That's why I said before, it's like you think you're like, who needs aliens, dude? You know, who needs aliens?
We got so much more freaky shit going on, right?
Right. And I would like to, you know, I don't really, like I said, I don't really talk to a lot of these folks who are sort of like super pro all this UFO stuff. But to me, it's like, I do worry in a sense that like that whole topic could be used to, you know, influence people. The whole idea, like, they're going to say it is an alien invasion and everything. And to me, it's like, going back to before about like, okay, if you're one of those people, do you really need UFOs? Like, check yourself. Do you really need UFOs? It's like, to me, another question to ask is like, what are you willing to trade for the answer? You know? And I think there are a lot of people who were like, okay, dude, if Trump came out and was like, aliens are real, and in light of this, you know, unsettling revelation, we're going to have to declare martial law. and we're gonna have to shut down TV stations and like, okay, are you willing to give up your freedom to find out about aliens? Like, I'd be interested to see how many of these folks would talk to that. Who would be like, yeah, fine. I don't break the law. That's fine. Let's do it. Give me aliens. I'll live under. I'll give up my rights. It's like, to me, no, that's not. And I do worry that could be a scenario that might unfold someday, where they're like, okay, this is a existential threat, and we need to hunker down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I think a lot of people would automatically just start worshiping them. I mean, there'd just be all these cults overnight.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's already happened, and I think it's ripe to happen again because of how much chaos there is.
So.
And I do think that, like, that's part of the appeal of the TTSA fans, in a sense, where them it's like, this is a salvation. This is a way out of this mess. Is this UFO thing?
Mm.
And it's like, dude, it's like, we got to get out of this mess ourselves, man. It's like, no one's gonna fucking save us, dude.
Yeah, that's a whole other element I haven't even really thought about. Because that definitely is a part of it. Is that this desire that,
like, messianic?
Yeah, well, the childhood's end kind of stuff. Yeah. I picked out a couple of news stories that I found
awesome.
interesting. So the first one is Bigfoot with an axe.
Oh, I love that story. Yeah, I thought that was a great one.
Yeah, it's a pretty.
I was
recent
surprised
one.
more people didn't pick it up on the mainstream because I thought it was really. I thought it had legs to it, but the original story, there was really nothing to it. It was just that they arrested this guy. I later found out that he was intoxicated, but the original report didn't. They just said he was charged with making a false 911 call. The story is this dude in Oregon called 911 and said he was being attacked. And the cops showed up, and he was all frantic and everything. So it sounded like he was being attacked, I guess. Then the cops showed up, and he said he was being attacked by a Sasquatch with an axe. And obviously, Sasquatch wasn't there when the cops got there, so they arrested him. And I just wish there was more to the story, in a sense. And I waited around for a couple days to see if I could. But I waited around for like a day to see if there would be more to it. A little bit more came out a few days later. But the only thing that really came out was that the guy was intoxicated. I would love to find out more of what he said about this Sasquatch encounter. But my assumption is that he was, under the influence. But I can't speak to that. But that's what the police said. So, yeah, but a funny one. I find it. I like to cover those stories in a sense where it's like you'd be surprised, and someday I gotta like put them all down into one thing. But it's like you'd be surprised how many like police logs you find a story that's like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think I've done like 8 to 10 over the last like 3 years. It's like dudes getting arrested and saying that they like a guy was shooting at fireflies because he thought they were alien lasers. There was a guy who shot up a church, or not shot up a church, but shot at a church that was like looked like a spaceship. That's why he shot it up. There was a guy who he was going to he had like a whole bunch of guns in his car because he was told by the reptilians that like they're some kind of like he was going to war with reptilians. Essentially, somehow Donald Trump was mixed in there.
Yeah,
somehow Donald Trump was mixed in, where he was like, Donald Trump called my house and told me that the reptilians had kidnapped my family, and was like, wow, this is So you'd be surprised. The weird paranormal shit does pop up on occasion in these police logs. I like to cover those stories when they do.
You're kind of assembling them like Charles Ford or something. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. There's a lot of weird ones. Yeah.
Meth is a hell of a drug.
To be honest, yeah. If I more often than not, there was almost always some level of intoxication involved in the stories. So, but it does make you wonder, why you know, what set this person off about aliens, you know, or whatever, or reptilians, or, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
I saw a
who
video
knows?
on YouTube, man, of some jackass conspiracy theorist.
Alcohol plus YouTube equals fun time.
I mean, look, dude, I've had more than my fair share of drinks in my lifetime, but I've never, ever, like, been under the impression that, like, there was an alien invasion imminent, or like, thank God, thank God, I've never done meth, so I don't know, maybe that's a side effect, you know, that you will think there's an alien invasion, but you know, I've never had that experience or seen anybody else sort of like all of a sudden get into some kind of like, oh shit, there's reptilians, you know, invading the planet, like, where it's like, whoa, Bruce, like, where's this coming from, man? It's like, what the hell? So, you know, it's interesting. How does that even come up?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conspiracy podcasts.
Could be.
The other one I picked.
Shows like ours.
The other one I picked is just like the really silly one, Face of Jesus on Tree Trunk. These are always my favorite type of stories.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. My favorite part was this guy was like, I'm not a religious person, but I definitely can't burn this because otherwise I'll burn in hell. It was like, wow, this guy's serious. So it's interesting. I guess, yeah. It makes you wonder, like, it's kind of the opposite, I guess, in a sense of what we were just talking about people getting all high and thinking that there's, like, paranormal stuff happening, but it's like, I guess it takes a special person, in a sense, to see a face in something and then go, I need to tell everyone about this face. You know what I mean? Because, like, I've seen faces and things before, but I was never like, I need to alert the media about this face I just saw in a piece of wood. It's like, if anything, wood is like the most likely thing to have a face. Like, I'm in a, you know, my house is like, has a lot of wood. It's made a lot of wood. Like, it's hard to explain, but you can see a shitload of wood. And like, if you look long enough at different knots in the wood, you can find all kinds of faces and weird shapes and everything. You know, but I've never been like, I've got to document this amazing array of knots, and because this is just too perfect to be anything but. Yeah.
We had a cinnamon roll here at a local establishment, I think probably a couple decades ago, that really resembled
nice.
It resembled Mother Teresa. So I think they set up a small pilgrimage. I don't know if it ever got endorsed by the Vatican, but they had a few people come by.
I've seen some that are like, I'm in another room right now and I'm looking. There's like a piece of, I don't know what, drywall, whatever you put that like weird like stucco stuff, you know, on a drywall.
Yeah.
And there's a way that a pattern, essentially, yeah. That it looks. I should take a picture and send it to you. You can put it on the the show.
Yeah.
There's a pattern that looks like some kind of like demon dog.
Oh shit.
And like every time I've gone into the laundry room here, I see it. And I'm like, you know, I'm like, oh, it's that. And I've been tempted to put a little dot in where, like, the eye would be, so you can kind of see that it's a demon dog. But, again, I've never been like, I've been looking at that for, like, 15 years. I've never been like, I need to tell the world about this demon dog on my bathroom wall. I just have, though, so inadvertently I've revealed the demon dog.
Yeah.
It's a scoop on this show.
Yeah, there you go.
You heard
All
it
has a
first.
demon dog in his
You
bathroom.
gotta have lines around the house looking at the demon dog. Well, my favorite of those type of things was the, I think it was either the Virgin Mary or Jesus in the dog's butt. That was my favorite one.
I
That,
wasn't gonna say, but
Oh, God. Like, I can give a pass to, like, anything like an Elvis head. It's almost like it can't be Jesus anymore. It's got to be something,
yeah.
you know.
Well, Donald Trump's been cited in quite a few things, too.
Yeah, I did one, like, when he was running for president that was like, they found a rock on Mars that looked like him.
the face.
You wouldn't even believe the shit they find on Mars. It's crazy. I try to document it as much as possible just because the more you document it, the more it becomes an amazing like collection of odd things. Like I think there was a croc, like not the animal, the shoe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody found a croc on Mars. You know, it's obviously like a rock, not a croc.
Yeah.
But you know, but it was a rock, presumably, unless somehow Martians also had crocs too, which would be like, I can't imagine two civilizations could come up with such a genius ideology.
Aliens wear Crocs, and you gotta believe me.
Well, that's what I put in the article when I wrote it up. I was like, well, this would be really a fantastic discovery. It would also really diminish the standing of Martians in the eyes of most humans to find out that they wear Crocs. It's like, I can't take an alien seriously if they showed up wearing Crocs, dude.
Not even business casual, just showed up with some Crocs trying to cut deals, yeah.
Can you imagine? Like, the alien gets off the spaceship and he's like walking over and you're just like, hold on, dude. Are those Crocs? Just like completely derails the entire peace summit between the planets.
Yeah, I say let's just go to war after that, man. Fuck it.
Yeah. At that point, it's like, what is going on here? How did you get Crocs, dude?
We'll
It's
trade
like
the
you've
Crocs
derailed
for
the whole.
UFO technology. That's what it is, man. You just got it here first.
Yeah. So I like them finding weird shit on Mars.
I think they found like a C-3PO head. Was that a Mars or the moon? I can't remember.
Could be either one. There was a really good Darth Vader head that was like really looked a lot like the Darth Vader mask. It's uncanny how much some of these things. I mean, the Croc, we're laughing about it, but like a Croc is a pretty distinct thing. I'll find it later and send it to you, the article. But it's like, and when you look at the picture, if you're expecting Croc, when you look at it, dude, that is exactly it's hard to convince yourself that this is actually a rock. Like when you're looking at it, because you're like, that's a Croc, dude. That's a Croc, you know. But you know it's not. It's crazy. It's fun.
It can't be. Unless a time traveler went to Mars and was wearing Crocs and left it there. I don't know.
There's all kinds of you could invent.
So many scenarios.
I've thought about doing that, like doing a show, or a book or something like where it's like fictional conspiracy theories, you know, based loosely around some like, you know, you take that picture of the Croc, quote unquote, on Mars, and you invent a whole, you know, radio fiction about how that Croc ended up on Mars.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Kind of like a interactive kind of game.
Yeah.
It'll end up like the John Teeter legend stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't be. Yeah. That seems like that was kind of something like that, like a LARP, almost like the QAnon thing. You know, like a LARP that got out of control because people really bought into it. You know. I mean, I'm interested to see how that.
Yeah.
Unfolds. Like, what's gonna. Because, I mean, you see people who are like, because this has been going on for like a year and a half. It's like they're still waiting for ostensibly Q and the government to, like, they think they're going to arrest like 50,000 people or something like that.
Well,
that's never going to happen.
Yeah, I really came of age during the whole Ong's hat thing, so it was like, you know, I've seen it before. I've seen something like this, so. But a lot of these people don't have that historical perspective, so it's just, you know, they're just buying the shit.
Is this also completely new to them? All these like that kind of concept is completely new to a lot of people.
That there could be like a game.
Right. It's been a great show. I want to thank you for doing it. Do you have like a web presence that people can see or?
Yeah, coasttocoastam.com.
Well, there you go, the Big Daddy.
How's that work for you?
That works, man.
Click on the articles. That's the stuff I write. They all have bylines from me. And if you go to the main website, on the carousel, you can see, you know, my stuff. And that's what I'm doing now. I mean, you know, I say that kind of jokingly, but I mean, I'm not doing the show at the moment. I'll probably thinking about bringing it back for a few shows this summer. And so that may happen. But I'll definitely be, I don't even want to think about right now the holidays. But we'll be back in some form or fashion in the holidays. So, of course, BinnallofAmerica.com, where people can find the podcast, click on audio. We got a huge archive of like 250 shows there. And if people want to know what I'm doing now, I'm over at coasttocoastam.com writing articles as their news director. So.
Awesome.
All right. Awesome. Well, Tim, stay on the line for us. We're going to close this section out, and we'll be right back. Close out the show, as always, on Conspirinormal. So, we've got a sponsor called, you may have heard of it, called ZipRecruiter.
No, I've never heard
and
of it.
you can further hypnotize yourself into success. And if you want to help us and help the show and ZipRecruiter, on behalf of our partner, ZipRecruiter, here's why ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology identifies people with the right skills, education, and experience, and actively invites them to apply to your job so you get qualified candidates fast. It's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is rated #1 by employers in the U.S. Thus, rating comes from hiring sites on Trustpilot with over 1,000 reviews. And right now, if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/Conspirinormal, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Conspirinormal. Yeah. So that was a little longer interview than usual, but
that was a blast.
That was an absolute blast. And I think we spent another like 30 minutes
just talking
just talking shit.
Oh man, if you guys could have only heard that.
Yeah, that's not recorded, but it is what it is. So I was pretty happy with that. Tim's a really great guy, really awesome to talk to, easy to talk to, and went really well.
Yeah, when I first discovered his show a couple years ago, probably like 3 years ago actually, when I was first working construction and stuff, I'll just put it on and I'll be just working with my headphones on, listen to like 2 or 3 of his shows, listen to almost all of them, I think.
Oh, okay, wow, yeah.
Yeah, so I pretty much ran through all of them. Binnall of America.
Okay.
He had a really cool show. Great archives to check out, you know.
Yeah, I'd never had really listened to his show until I was about to have him on. I mean, I was aware of him, but I got to listen to a few over the weekend while I was in the car. So I really enjoyed it.
Ones, a lot of Go Rightly stuff. Go Rightly shows really cool.
He's had a lot of the same guests that we've had. Like he said, Go Rightly, and of course Greg Bishop, Joshua Cutchin, Aaron Golias. Which we need to get Aaron Golias back on, I think, here.
I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
Because he's covering a lot of ground in the Saucer Live stuff. He just did a whole thing about Alternative 3.
I listened to it the other day, yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. You got any thoughts on that?
On what, Alternative 3?
Alternative 3? I know that's all in the Bill Cooper stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, we have a lot of things come with Golias and looking at things from a sociological standpoint and how things, you know, impact and how legends are born out of things. And it's just real interesting how the unavailability of it helped turn it into this mythology, you know, and people taking it literally, or there being some kind of mix like, oh, this was, you know, this is a way to get it out there as fiction, or, you know, it's just, it's really interesting how it kind of transformed, which now, you know, now that everyone can have everything, it's harder to, you know, we're kind of talking about this stuff, a lot of this stuff from the last century, the internet is kind of, you know, either changed or totally destroyed certain ways of doing things. Like there used to be whole mail order religions and secret societies, and, you know, there used to be all these audio recordings of, you know, self-hypnosis or this or that you'd have to buy, and it's a pretty good racket, but now it's pretty much just on YouTube for free, and, you know, it's pretty interesting.
Have you ever seen the movie Alternative 3?
No, I haven't seen it.
You ever seen that? Yeah, it's an interesting artifact.
Yeah.
I watched it on YouTube quite a few years ago. I don't know if it's still on there. It may still be.
I need to just go ahead and watch it one day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fairly interesting. I mean, it'll make you think, but one of the things I wonder about with it is like why come up with something like that? You know, it's obviously a hoax.
Yeah.
It's obviously done as kind of like a War of the Worlds kind of thing.
But is it a psyop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I wonder. And a lot of the secret space program material comes from the whole alternative 3 mythos, I suppose. So I suppose we won't do as much of a outro here as we usually do. So I will say that we will have David Metcalf on the next show, who is also someone else that I met at the Paramania event. And we're going to be talking to him a little bit about, I think, mostly about Santa Marta.
Oh, okay.
So I think that will be a real interesting show. You may have some insight on that too.
That'll be real interesting. Yeah.
Your Mr. Easy Street candle over there.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're going to close this show out, but I want to thank everybody for listening. And you can find us, Sergio, you can tell everybody about our Patreon.
You can find us at patreon.com/Conspirinormal. And if you want to make a one-time donation, can they go to Conspirinormal.com right now?
Yeah, they can still go to Conspirinormal.com.
But on the Patreon, we have been putting a whole lot of extra content up there. So there's a lot of cool stuff, some romper rooms, some bonus episodes. There's a lot of creative audio stuff I wanted to do, put on there. And we're doing another romper room. I don't know if it's going to be Patreon.
That, I think, will be on the main feed. Yeah.
But we're trying to do more on there all the time. But you can get in for as little as $1. So,
yep.
That's how I got involved with this. And a lot of cool extra shows to watch. Though, like we said, we don't save a lot of the juicier stuff for Patreon. But we've got more different topics that the guests may be into, or we still got a lot of really good content on there, but we put most of the best stuff on the shows for everybody.
Yep, as we were talking about with Tim, got a little shop talk tonight. So, all right, guys, we'll be back next time on Conspirinormal.
If you would like to help the show, please consider becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/Conspirinormal, or leave a one-time donation at Conspirinormal.com. And please check out our YouTube channel.